Picture this. You're helping a friend move into a new apartment, and somewhere between the coffee maker and the stack of IKEA boxes, you spot it. A worn-out stuffed bear sitting carefully wrapped in bubble wrap. Your friend notices you noticing it, and for a split second, there's this flash of vulnerability on their face, like they've been caught doing something they shouldn't. They laugh it off. Oh, that old thing. I don't know why I still have it. But they do know. And honestly, so do you, because maybe you have something just like it's sitting on a shelf in your own home right now. Here's what most people assume. Adults who keep childhood toys are either stuck in the past, emotionally immature, or just a little quirky. Society has quietly decided that at some point, maybe when you sign your first lease or get your first serious job, you're supposed to pack all of that away. Grow up. Move on. But psychology tells a completely different story, and it's one that says keeping those objects isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually a window into some of the most sophisticated emotional intelligence a person can have. Let's start at the beginning because this goes back further than you might think. When you were a child, your brain latched onto certain objects and turned them into what psychologist Donald Winnicott called a transitional object. This is the blanket, the stuffed animal, the little toy car that went everywhere with you. Winnicott's research showed that these objects served as a psychological bridge, a way for a child to feel safe when the world felt uncertain. Your brain essentially transferred feelings of security, warmth, and comfort onto that object. And here is the fascinating part. The brain doesn't just delete that association when you turn 18. Those neural pathways stick around. That teddy bear isn't just fabric and stuffing to your nervous system. It's a compressed archive of safety. Think about what that means. When an adult keeps a childhood toy, they're not being childish. They're maintaining access to one of the earliest emotional regulation tools their brain ever learned to use. That's not regression. That's remarkably resourceful. Now let's talk about identity, because this is where it gets really interesting. Psychologists who study the self have long argued that objects play a huge role in how we construct who we are. Your possessions are an extension of your identity. They tell a story about where you came from, what shaped you, what mattered to you before the world started telling you what should matter. A childhood toy is one of the few objects in your life that knew you before the masks went on, before you learned to perform confidence at job interviews or small talk at parties. That toy was there when you were just you, unfiltered and unedited. Keeping it close is, in a quiet way, keeping that version of yourself alive. And let's be honest, the world gives adults very few permission slips to do that. There's also something deeply connected to grief and loss here that doesn't get talked about enough. Sometimes a childhood toy is tied to a person who is no longer here, a grandparent who gave it, a parent who tucked it in beside you every night, a version of your family that no longer exists in the same form. Letting go of the toy can feel, on some subconscious level, like letting go of them. And so the object becomes a vessel for love and memory. That's not pathology. That's humanity at its most tender. Research in the area of nostalgia, and yes, nostalgia is a legitimate field of psychological study, shows that nostalgic experiences actually increase feelings of social connectedness, reduce anxiety, and give people a stronger sense of meaning. A 2012 study out of the University of Southampton found that nostalgia functions as a kind of psychological resource, something people instinctively reach for when they feel lonely, stressed, or disconnected. Which means that adult on the shelf isn't just keeping a toy. They're keeping a lifeline. Here's something worth sitting with. In a culture that is obsessed with productivity, optimization, and moving forward at all costs, the person who keeps a childhood toy is quietly doing something radical. They're saying that not everything has to be useful to be valuable, that some things are allowed to simply mean something. That comfort is not a childish need. It is a human one. So the next time someone raises an eyebrow at the stuffed elephant on your bookshelf or the little action figure that survived 6 apartments and 2 cross-country moves, you don't owe them an explanation. Because what they're really looking at is evidence that you know how to hold on to what matters. That you haven't let the world talk you out of every soft thing you ever loved. That somewhere inside you, there is still a person who understands that safety and warmth are worth protecting, no matter how old you get. And that, if you ask me, is not something to outgrow. That is something to be proud of.